Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable Professor Fatul Wahid PhD, Rector of Universitas Islam Indonesia. Honorable Dr. Haji Fuad Nasyori, SPSI MSI MAG Psikolog, Dean of Faculty of Psychology and Socio-Cultural Sciences, distinguished speakers on plenary sessions, paper presenters and participants of International Conference on Islamic Social Sciences and Humanities, ICONISH 2021. On behalf of ICONISH Committee, I am Sekar Sari, as the host of today's event, would like to present a warm welcome to you to our event today. International Conference on Islamic Social Sciences and Humanities, ICONISH 2021. Can we have a big applause for this amazing event? All right, ladies and gentlemen, ICONISH is annual conference held by the Faculty of Psychology and Socio-Cultural Sciences, Universitas Islam Indonesia. This conference aims to connect academicians, researchers, as well as practitioners all over the world in enhancing our understanding of social science and religion, especially within Islamic perspective. Coming up with the theme, Islam and Global Challenges, this conference aims to contribute alternative views in responding crucial issues at the global level during the pandemic, and also to place the conceptual claims in conjunction with the perspective to address the social realities. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start our event today, we are going to hear Quran recitation by Ibrahim Shauki, student of Department of Communication Science. Ibrahim Shauki, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A'udzu billahi minasy syaithanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا وَمَا جَعَلْنَا الْقِبْلَةَ الَّتِي كُنْتَ عَلَيْهَا إِلَّا لِنَعْلَمَ مَنْ يَتَّبِعُ الرَّسُولَ مِمَّنْ يَنْقَلِبُ عَلَى عَقِبَيْهِ وَإِنْ كَانَتْ لَكَبِيرَةً إِلَّا عَلَى الَّذِينَ هَدَى اللَّهُ وما كان الله ليضيع إيمانكم إن الله بالناس لرؤوف رحيم صدق الله العظيم. اللهم ارحمنا بالقرآن. ثم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Proceed to the next agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand up for Indonesian National Anthem, Indonesia Raya, followed by the hymn of Universitas Islam Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall now proceed to the next agenda. I would like to invite the Dean of Faculty of Psychology and Socio-Cultural Sciences to deliver the welcoming remarks. Dr. Haji Fuad Nashori, SPSI, MSI, MAG, Psikolog, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished guys, Profesor Fatul Wahid, Rector of Universitas Islam Indonesia, Profesor Jasir Auda, Professor of Makosid Institute Global, Profesor Alef Erkelid from Ibnu Khaldun University, Turkey, Professor Ang Peng Hua from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, Dr. Mustafa Izzuddin from National University of Singapore, Dr. Nurafidah from University Utara Malaysia, Dr. Phil M. Zalifa, and Dr. Muhammad Zulfiar Rahman from Universitas Islam Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, let us extend our gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for the blessing that He continuously gives to us. Let us also send salawat and salam to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ladies and gentlemen, the first ICONISH is intended to rejuvenate the spirit of integrating religion and science that seem to rise and fall among Muslim scientists. Dr. Muhammad Hatta, a Muslim scientist and one of the proclaimers of Indonesian independence, one conveyed the importance of integrating science and religion for achieving a prosperous community. Dr. Muhammad Hatta is the founding father of the Universitas Islam Indonesia. He won the immortalize his ideas on integration of science and Islam in ICONISH. So we plan to conduct this conference every 2 years. The problem is that science and religion are often positioned against each other. The contradiction that was sparked by the difference of thought between the Catholic Church and 17th century scientists is so intense that it has been deeply ingrained. It was preceded by the death penalty for scientists whose ideas and discoveries contradicted the belief of church leaders. Until now, the spirit of separating science and religion is still upheld by many scientists. Since 1970s, Muslim scholars have been aware of and concerned about this contradiction. They have been trying to revive the spirit of integrating science and religion. Ismail Faruqi ideas about Islamization knowledge and Syed Muhammad Najim Al-Atas idea of desecularization of science was widely accepted by Muslim scientists. Through International Institute of Islamic Thought, or IIIT, the idea of integrating science and religion is constantly nurtured. What we are doing with ICONISH is an attempt to live in, What we are doing with ICONISH is an attempt to liven up the spirit that scientists carry. Social science and humanities are considered crucial for the integration of science and Islam. Economic, law, and psychology are parts of social sciences and humanities that have received considerable attention from Muslim scientists. The concept and practices of Islamic economics Islamic law and Islamic psychology today has developed rapidly. We hope that other fields of social sciences and humanities, especially communication science, English language education, and international relations, will continue to receive serious attention from Muslim scientists to be integrated with Islamic values. On 9th and 10th December 2021, speakers and presenters will share their thoughts and research with all of us. Hopefully, the knowledge that we will gain on these 2 days will provide significant contribution for Islamic social sciences and humanities to develop and benefit the society. I would like to thank all plenary session speakers, presenters, participants, committee, and all parties involved in ICONISH. Please forgive all mistakes and shortcomings. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Fuad, for the welcoming remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite the Rector of Universitas Islam Indonesia to deliver the opening speech. Professor Fatul Wahid, PhD, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning from Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahil akram alladzi 'allama bil qalam 'allamal insana ma lam ya'lam. Assalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyina Muhammadin khatamil anbiya wal mursalin khairil anam wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahum ila yaumil qiyamati 'ala dawam alladzinal kiram. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. The Honorable keynote and invited speakers, my colleague, the Dean and the Vice Dean, the Head of and the Secretary of Department, the Head and Secretary of Study Program at the Faculty of Psychology and Socio-Cultural Sciences, Universitas Islam Indonesia, the Chairperson of the Organizing Committee of the Conference, and all the committee members and all the participants. It is indeed a great honor for me on behalf of Universitas Islam Indonesia to welcome you all virtually in this event, the first international conference on Islamic social sciences and humanities, ICONISH 2021, held by the Faculty of Psychology and Socio-Cultural Sciences, Universitas Islam Indonesia. I imagine that if the COVID-19 pandemic were not around, we might have already gathered physically in Yogyakarta, Indonesia, but today, we have to hold the conference virtually. And the theme selected by the conference organizer to me is indeed both important and interesting, Islam and global challenges. When reading the theme at the first sight, two perspectives pop up in my mind. One is, does the theme emphasize on the role of Islam and hence Muslims in coping with the global challenges? Or the second, how should Muslims deal with distortion of the image of Islam in the global arena by media? For marketing purpose, having a phrase with more than one intertwined meaning is often an advantage, since it will stimulate curiosity and attract engagement. I hope this is also valid for scientific discussion. I do believe that both questions are relevant until today, but each has specific characteristics. Let's elaborate the both questions a little. The former question is more outward-looking and questioning the active role of Islam in responding global contemporary issues. while the latter tend to be more inward-looking and dealing with domestic problem of Muslim. The former question demand Muslims to be more proactive and more engaged in providing solution to the global problem, while the latter might force Muslims to move from one cul-de-sac, a road leading nowhere, to another, and hence will be caught in a snare, reacting. In this context, I do agree with the suggestion made by Jauddin Sardar is one of his writing. The only rational way ahead is for Muslims to become proactive, shape their future with foresight and a genuine appreciation of their present predicament, including a difficult and embarrassing situation, truthful assessment of their historic shortcomings, and a deep understanding of a contemporary global reality. If we agree with this, then we need to define what the global challenges we have in our mind. By doing so, as Muslims, we may need to declare not to pay too much attention to trivial and less important problems and mobilize our collective thought and energy to comprehend the contemporary global issues, to find the possible solution for them, and at the same time, to be actively engaged with other global communities to solve the global problem. And before concluding this remark, I invite all of you to define global challenges we need to address. Please allow me to start with a short list of them. Accelerating sustainable development, mitigating climate change, promoting economic and social progress, safeguarding peace, protecting human rights, and ensuring equity and inclusivity. You all may make this list longer. The speakers and the participants, hence today, I am more than happy to open this conference that attracts scholars from various backgrounds to discuss important aspects of social sciences and humanities and their connection with the contemporary issues. I'm sure that various perspectives that will be shared by the speakers and the participants in this conference will provide meaningful insight and stimulate further discussion in the area of concern. To conclude, I would like to extend my gratitude to the distinguished speakers, the dean, the head of department, the head of study program, the chairperson, and all the members of organizing committee and all the participants. With the hope to obtain protection and blessing from Allah, let's together officially open this conference by reciting Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I wish that all of you will find this conference personally rewarding, academically insightful, and professionally relevant. I thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Fatul Wahid, for the opening speech. Ladies and gentlemen, proceed to the next agenda. Today we are going to have the first plenary session that is about the conceptual and theoretical development. This session will be chaired by Mr. Hazamin Fadli Robi. And before I hand the session over to the session chair, allow me to give an introduction of the session chair. Mr. Hazamin Fadli Robi is an assistant professor at the Department of International Relations, Universitas Islam Indonesia, since 2018. His research interests include but are not limited to issues such as religion and international relations, Islamic political thought, Turkish political studies, and Indian political studies. He earned his bachelor degree in political sciences from Department of International Relations, Universitas Gadjah Mada, and Master of Sciences in International Relations from Eski Sehir Osmangazi Universitasi. During his bachelor's and master's years, he has been trained to do foreign policy analysis, particularly the foreign policies of Muslim countries and the role of Muslim countries in international politics. He is also currently serving as director at Embun Kalimasada Cultural Center, Board of Wakaf, Universitas Islam Indonesia. Mr. Haza is an active user of the Turkish language and currently learning Hindi as part of his research program. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any delay, please welcome our first session chair today, Mr. Haza Min Fadli Robi.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to greet all of the esteemed speakers and distinguished guests. Professor Dr. Ang Peng Hua, Professor Wee Kim Wee School of Communication and Information, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. Dr. Nur Arifah Drajati, MPD, Lecturer Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Universitas 11 Maret, Indonesia. Dr. Phil Emi Zulaifa, MSc, Vice Dean of for Students, Religion, Alumni, and Partnership, Faculty of Psychology and Sociocultural Sciences at Universitas Islam Indonesia. Professor Fatul Wahid, ST, MSc, PhD, Rector of Universitas Islam Indonesia. Dr. Al-Hajj Fuad Nasori, SPSI, MPSI, MAG, PSI. Dean of the Faculty of Psychology and Sociocultural Sciences, Islamic University of Indonesia, and accompanying Vice Deans and Head of Department within the Faculty of Socio-Cultural Sciences at Universitas Islam Indonesia, distinguished Deans and Head of Departments at Universitas Islam Indonesia, esteemed professors, colleagues from partner universities and research institutions, dear guests. Alhamdulillahilladzi anzala al-furqana ala abdihi liyakuna lil alamina nadhira, wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya'il wal mursalin, Muhammadin al-Amin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in, amma ba'du. We send our prayers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May He protect us from this pandemic and strengthen us in this perilous and challenging time. We are also giving our praise to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that has inspired us with his compassion and his humanity to become the best ummah or the best community in this end of time. My Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam bless us and grant us his shafa'ah or his salvation in the day of judgment. Amin. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Haza Min Fadli Robi, and I will be your chairperson for today. First of all, I would like to welcome all of the speakers and the participants to the International Conference on Islamic Sciences and Humanities. This virtual conference focuses on the development of Islamic sciences and the integration of Islamic values in social sciences and humanities. Drawing on Islam and global challenges as the theme, the conference connects scholars and practitioners of psychology, socioeconomics, international relations, education, communication, international law, sociology, cultural sciences, security studies, and other related scientific fields from all over the world. This pandemic has caused tremendous impacts to the global level, both in the terms of economic and social life. Both state and non-state actors are given no choice but to make substantial adjustment in almost all aspects of its operation. This includes the increase of conflict-affected population, the damage to international crisis management and conflict resolution mechanism, and changing social orders. Such as substantial changes that we have seen inevitably exacerbate global challenges encountered by global citizens. The fact that global challenges are much shaped by the gaps and rivalry between United States and the rising power of China is inevitable. These challenges need a break from business as usual and require a new approach and a new strategy to fill the gaps. That could be afforded by the Islamic perspective. The global challenges that are currently much influenced by the Sino-American relations and perspectives attract us to explore the fundamental dynamics of inclusion and exclusion under an all-encompassing theme of Islam and global challenges. And to discuss those issues, we already have with us today our three distinguished speakers coming from different research fields and from different universities. We have Dr. Phil Emi Zulaifa, MSc, as Vice Dean for Students, Religion, Alumni, and Partnership at the Faculty of Psychology and Socio-Cultural Sciences at Universitas Islam Indonesia. We are also having Professor Ang Peng Hua, PhD, from Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. And also we are having Dr. Nur Arifah Drajati from Universitas 11 Maret. Good morning to all of the speakers, and we welcome you virtually to the Universitas Islam Indonesia. We'll start the discussion by hearing the presentation from our speakers today, and afterward we will continue into discussion session. And for the first speaker, we will have Dr. Emi Zulaifa. Dr. Emi, good morning. How are you today? Are you ready for today's session? Inshallah, okay, yes. Thank you very much for your willingness to come directly to our session in our live studio. And so before I give Dr. Emi Zulaifa the time for her to present the materials, I would like to introduce her. Dr. Emi Zulaifa is currently the Vice Dean for Students, Religion, Alumni, and Partnership at the Faculty of Psychology and Socio-Cultural Sciences at Universitas Islam Indonesia. She earned a Doctor of Philosophy in Psychology from University of Leipzig in Germany. Her Master of Science degree was taken at the Industrial Organizational Psychology from the San Francisco State University at the United States of America. Her research interests include Islamic psychology, psychology of leadership, and industrial and organizational psychology. Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, without further ado, now please welcome Dr. Emi Zulaifa. Dr. Zulaifa, you have 20 minutes, and now the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Pak Hada. Can the committee please help to share my screen that I already sent to them? Thank you. Yeah. Okay. My presentation today is about Islamic psychology. This is the discipline that we in the psychology department at Islamic University of Indonesia is dearly developing this area, the new discipline. Actually, this is not quite new if you look back into the history, but as something that is studied in a way that modern science allows us to study this, then this is a new one. The title of my presentation will be Developing Human Being and Building Society with Islamic Psychology. So please, next. Okay, we maybe wonder why is it that it has to be Islamic psychology. Now I will want to begin with what Plante, he is the leader for the psychology and spirituality in the American Psychological Association, illustrates. He said this, the thoughtful and evidence-based integration of religion, spirituality, and psychology during the past century has been a rather bumpy ride. Although several of psychology's founding influencers were very interested in encouraging about this area of both research and clinical practice, such as William James, the father of modern psychology also, one of the founding fathers. Others were certainly not interested in that, such as John Watson, Albert Ellis, and Sigmund Freud. I think students of psychology know very well who these people are. Next slide. Further, next slide, please. Further, Plante also noted that psychology has been mostly a proudly secular field, with the majority of psychologists being generally dismissive of religion and spirituality, and with too many perceiving this interest and engagement as a sign of psychopathology. So, meaning that you believe in God, you cope with problems religiously with the values that you believe in your religion, then that is a sign of your mental illness. So this is how the modern mainstream psychology see religion. So please, next. But fortunately, there is this man, this intellectual, Murabbi, we call him, yeah, you can call him that, who was so concerned about this trend in the mainstream psychology, Professor Malik Badri. He was able to express what the Muslim psychologists felt during all those time when they learned psychology, yeah, with this question: has psychology that we learn in the university brought us Muslims, closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the supreme being to whom we will all return to? So he was good in capturing the thought and the concern of thousands of students of psychology, Muslim students of psychology, and also Muslim psychologists. So it really has become the question of every devout Muslim who learns psychology. And he wrote that down very eloquently in his first book, The Dilemma of Muslim Psychologists. Next slide, please. Okay, part of this, the reluctance of the Muslim psychologists to really delve into the mainstream psychology can be addressed to this, because there is this issue of worldview. In the discourse of modern psychology, Islamic psychology is an endeavor that answers the concern of thousands of Muslim psychologists in the world who feel that the secular modern science could isolate them from their belief related to their core identity as God's creation. For people who believe in God, emphasizing that such belief is a taboo in the scientific understanding about a human being will impact on the way people view themselves, and thus in resolving their problems, as well as their relationships with God, with others, and the natural surroundings. Meanwhile, in Islam, the perspective on the self and its surrounding environment has clear theological foundation, can be traced in our holy book, the Quran, and are described in the narration about attitude, thoughts, and sayings, an example given by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So, alienating the supreme being from these relationships will eventually strip the essence of our faith, their faith. Furthermore, it has always been clear for every devout Muslim that every scientific inquiry, as an attempt to understand the law and work of nature and life, does not have to put aside the Creator, the Almighty God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Please, next slide. All this concern and the belief in every Muslim psychologist, that we, in trying to understand human, we don't have to put aside our belief in God, are supported by the verses in the Quran, such as this that I listed in the slide. Verily, in the creation of the skies and the earth, and the alternation of night and day, and the ships that run in the seas, with what benefits people, and what Allah has sent down from the sky of water, so He revived with it the earth after its death, and spread within it from every treading creatures, and the dispensation of winds, and the enabling clouds between the sky and the earth are signs for a people that reason. So, by becoming a Muslim, we are encouraged to do exploration about creation, about the universe, about ourselves. So if a scientific inquiry has to put aside our belief in God, then that becomes problematic for the Muslims. Okay, next slide. The mainstream psychology in the eye of Muslim psychologists shows the following problems. First, it is partial and incomplete in its concept, research, and application. It takes away humans from the true self, or fitra. We have the concept or fitra for human, that is God conscious, to only self-focused. It denies the reality of akhirah and the awareness that we humans will return to God and will be held accountable for our actions and decisions. It denies, at least partially, the reality of the self that exists in a system of relation with God, the environment, with ourselves, with her or himself, with others in social relation, and with material environment. And that in this relation, humans plays roles and bear responsibility for maintaining the balance. So the modern mainstream psychology doesn't touch that comprehensively or thoroughly or deeply rooted. Next slide. The attempt to explain human psychology had begun early for Muslims. If tracing of its history must be done, then some early works will appear to the forefront. Over 1,000 years ago, from the work of Al-Balkhi, titled Sustenance of the Body and Soul, Masalih al-Abdan wal-Anfus, from the 9th century, we can learn how mental balance may be achieved. This work has surprised many psychologists and psychiatrists today, as studied by Rania Awad, 2016. Al-Balkhi, a physician in profession, described in detail the type of prevention from and treatment of psychological diseases, which resemble today's much appraised cognitive behavioral therapy. This is also studied by Prof. Malik Badri, or from the work of Abu Hamid Muhammad al-Ghazali, The Alchemy of Happiness, from the 10th century. So historically, psychology is part of Muslim civilization, Islamic civilization. Next slide, please. Now, today then, we will ask, so what is Islamic psychology? If you track the book that is written by Dr. Rasul, you will see that people try to give a lot of definition, but this one definition is, I think, can be accepted, by mostly the Muslim psychologists. The study of human soul, emotion, cognition, and behavior. Some people add based on the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay, some scholars try to track this conception of Islamic psychology. Laleh Bahtiar, for example, stated that although Islamic psychology and the mainstream psychology similarly focus on describing emotions, behavior, and cognition, Islamic psychology includes metaphysics, theology, cosmology, and the natural science as the basis of the underlying principle for what we feel, do, or think. It becomes comprehensive and non-partial in understanding human being. The material and metaphysical element of the human life now is known in the Maqasid approach. This is another different approach in developing Islamic science, which is purpose-based. The material and metaphysical element is known as those of the observed, the shahada, or seen reality, on which we can have access for direct observation, and the unseen reality despite its existence. As some creation fall into this category, that the revelation, the Quran shows us. So this unseen reality, there is this reality, and some creatures fall into this category, and we learn about them through the revelation, which is the Quran, for the Muslim. Included in this unseen reality is the hereafter, that is strongly believed among Muslims, the angels, as stated in the pillars of faith of Islam, and of course, the real one, that is God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Next slide, please. Okay, in her explanation on the works of Al-Ghazali, one of the many Muslim scholars who wrote extensively on the issues of psychology in the first millennium, Laleh Bahtiar further noted that the basis for the understanding of self is the Tawheed, monotheism. A monotheist, or Hanif, or following a straight path like Al-Ghazali, sees the entire universe as a single entity. Everything comes from God and will return to Him, while a multitheist or mushrik sees the world as a collection of diverse and full of divisions, contradiction, and heterogeneity, includes various poles that are free and contradictory, unconnected desires, habits, goals, gender, sex, color, race, class, and faith. So that's the disunity and disintegration. Next slide, please. In Islam, humans, like other creatures, are clearly said to be the creation of God. Subject to his laws, they are laid out in nature and life, and that these divine statements are recorded in the Holy Book. There will be a time when humans will return to Allah, their creator. And this, what is normally denied in the mainstream secular psychology. The centrality of a Muslim's belief in Allah dictates an intellectual inquiry that does not distance him from God. On the contrary, it becomes a way to understand the Creator, Ma'rifatullah. Next slide. Now comes the next question. So what is the purpose of knowledge? What is the purpose of scientific endeavor? Yeah. Auda, we will listen to him tonight, yeah? Auda, 2021, in the lecture on the Maqasid methodology stated, if it must be defined in one word related to knowledge in Islam, scientific inquiry, yeah, it's supposed to be related, then it is a way to know Allah, or Makrifatullah. Based on this highest purpose, it's to get to know your Creator, to understand Him, to understand His purpose, to understand His design. Yeah? Scientific endeavors translate the next noble purpose of revelation, which is spreading maslahah, good doings, justice, mercy, defending the poor, the weak, yeah, protection of life, regeneration, and so on. Next slide, please. I'm going to move really fast now because time is up. The highest purpose of scientific and intellectual engagement is to worship God, whose knowledge is all-encompassing. Yeah, and in reviewing Alchemy of Happiness, there is this nice quote, yeah, religion is one of the points that in time will lead to our center and origin. Religion-based psychology, in this case, Islamic psychology, thus has the aim of helping individuals and human societies to find that center when we are preparing to return to our origins. Next slide, please. I'm going to move really fast now. A beautiful statement related to the premise of the centrality of God and can be found in the Quran in Surah Al-Hashr, verse 18. O believers, be mindful of Allah and let every soul look to what deeds it has sent forth for tomorrow. This statement is then continued to verse 19. And do not be like those who forgot Allah, so He made them forget themselves. See how Quran is talking about ourselves so much. Yeah? Next slide. Now, how are we going to approach and develop knowledge about human that is in line with the movement of the universe and of the purpose of the creation? First is that it has got to be science-based. Next slide. We can explain this in the question and answer. Second, it has got to be comprehensive, rooted, and integrated. Next. It has got to be muzakkah, purified knowledge that allows for growth. It's very interesting if you want to dig deeper into the principle of muzakkah, yeah, of developing knowledge, because this means that we will have to be free from all interests, yeah, except to really producing knowledge that is purified. Next, Arabic-based knowledge. This is not about race or ethnicity or lifestyle, about being an Arab, but this is about language, about conceptual building, you know, and the Arabic language possesses such a quality that can help us in developing concept that is Islamic. Next. Now, how do we justify the integrity of the knowledge? Yeah, if we say Islamic knowledge, how do we justify this integrity? There is some criteria that can be developed. Next slide, please. Yeah, that it has got to be science or evidence-based, and it has got to be impartial. So partiality is a big no in developing Islamic knowledge. And then purification, as I already mentioned, yeah. Next slide. Okay, the science-based knowledge need to be freed from toppling desire, zone or speculation, imitation for the purpose of imitation. Yeah, in imitation, you can divide them into more detail. Imitate those who are arrogant, imitate the ancestors, because it's going to kill our critical thinking, and then imitating the majority. We see that although a large number of people believe in something, that something is not necessarily the right one. Okay, so you see, Islam get us to think, critically think about something and understand something that's in a correct way. Okay, next one. Now, what is the focus? The focus of Islamic psychology is the nafs. Yeah, the nafs, if you track the word in the Quran, it can bear some meanings. Yeah, the most essential identity, precious and sought after, and at the same time, it has same root as breath or breathing, a very basic sign of living in the life of human. Okay, so understanding nafs is something very important, which is essentially related to biological state and defines the identity of a person. The literal definition of the word of nafs is the soul or self. It is interesting to know that the word psyche, Laleh Bahtiar quoted that, revealed she revealed that it means soul. Psychology coming from the Greek word psyche, the soul, and logos, the word of God. So in its original meaning, it is the study of the word of God within the human soul. Okay, now I will have to come to closing. So the focus of Islamic psychology is the nafs. Let me touch on the maybe the last minute for the prospect. Yeah. Can we move forward for the slides? Yeah, okay. Tazkiyatun nafs is the process in which a human being can let their self grow, yeah, through tazkiyah. We have this thorough concept of tazkiyatun nafs in Islam, and it's very important. In life, we need to do that, tazkiyatun nafs, and as scientists, we need to do that, yeah, beside we produce the knowledge that is purified. We, as scientists, need to purify ourselves also. So the process goes both ways for the object of the knowledge and also the doer, the subject of the knowledge. Okay. Can we go to the last slide of the prospect? Okay. Yeah. Go on. Those are, maybe here. If we would want to see the prospect of Islamic psychology in the future, there's a lot to tell that goes around the world, around the globe. Yeah, books and articles and research keep coming in, and some are tackling new issues such as environment. Yeah, but this time I just want to tell that our friends in UII keep doing a lot of works, good works, yeah, related to Islamic psychology. You see the picture there? Those are our friends, our colleagues in the Department of Psychology. Yeah, they're working for theory development and also application of Islamic psychology. We have Bunanum with the idea of digging into the concept of Hayatun Thayyibah, the good life. Ibu Uyun, the concept of Tauba as therapy. Pak Fuad, the dean, our dean who just gave the speech on forgiveness, Pak Sus on prophetic leadership, Pak Medi on gratefulness, Pak Arif on Islamic psychology for the development of small and medium enterprises, Pak Irwan on quality of life, and Ibu Nita on the Nafsul Mutmainah, or the serene, yeah, serene self. I think this I can tell you. We are going to keep working on this as the world, the society are challenged by various problems that really test them, and we can see that psychology that will answer to their belief, to their reality as they believe it, will be much more important in the future than today. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Emi Zulaifa. I would like to give several summaries on what Dr. Emi Zulaifa has delivered in these past 20 minutes. There are several important points. The first point is that Bu Emi Zulaifa has highlighted that the modern mainstream psychology dismisses the role of religion and spiritualism, and I think this only only can be found in the field of psychology, but also in the field of Department of International Relations and Political Sciences as well, as a result of secularizations of knowledge that are happening since 16th century. And even, I was quite surprised to see that several psychologists also regarded religion as signs of psychopathology, and it's very interesting to see that. Also, Bu Emi, Dr. Emi also mentioned the role of Dr. Malik Badri, the late Malik Badri, who was demised earlier this year. So he was asking a crucial and groundbreaking question on how Muslim psychologists could provide and also reconstruct new paradigm on psychology and Islamic perspective. And this is important because scientific inquiry and Islamic perspective can and should go hand in hand, especially the discovery of self and nafs, or soul, in the field of psychology. And what we see as the crisis of self and the crisis of soul that are being faced by modern society could actually resulted from the dilemma of modernism itself. That is the assumption of finality of modernity and materialism, finally trap the modern self in an endless confusion that we are looking into the theory like nihilism by Sartre and etc. And this is becoming very important for religion, and also especially the Islamic perspective could provide the clear boundaries to solve this kind of confusion. And that's why Dr. Emi also mentioned the importance of the knowledge of God as creator to help us better understand the nature of ourselves as human beings and our roles in this universe. And also Muslim scholars, even since the medieval era, has clearly shown that the understanding of self dependent upon the existence of Tawheed or monotheism, and to provide clear guidance, guidelines for human position in the entire universe. And although there are limited time to Dr. Emi, and I hope that audiences are wanting to explore more on her explanation, especially on how to integrate Islamic perspective and also psychology. But Bu Emi also mentioned about the ways to integrate Islamic perspective to psychology, for example, by looking into three ways: Alamatiyah, sign-based; Muzakkah, the purified base; and also Arabiyah, the Arabic base. Thank you so much, Bu Emi, for your kind explanation. And now we are moving on to our next speaker, Professor Ang Peng Hua. Good morning, Professor Ang. How are you?
Selamat pagi.
Selamat pagi, Professor. How are you doing in Singapore?
Okay, yeah, we are getting better. We had sort of a lockdown with the Omicron, but now we are gradually opening up. Yeah.
Okay, Alhamdulillah, thank God for that. And I hope you and your colleagues in Nanyang Technological University are in good condition as well, Professor. And now I would like to introduce Professor Ang Peng Hua. Professor Ang Peng Hua, PhD, is currently Chief Editor of the Asian Journal of Communication. His teaching and research interests combine law and communication, touching on internet law and policy, censorship, and the social impact of media. In 2004, he was appointed by the then United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan to the 40-strong working group on internet governance. He co-founded the Global Internet Governance Academic Network and the Asia-Pacific Regional Internet Governance Forum, and served as inaugural chair of both organizations. He was the first Asian elected as president of the International Communication Association. A lawyer by training, he worked as a journalist before going on to pursue a master's in communication management at the University of Southern California and a PhD in mass media at Michigan State University. Ladies and gentlemen, the esteemed guest, beloved professors. And now please welcome Professor Ang Peng Hua to talk about the Asian perspective of communication theory. Professor Ang Peng Hua, you have 20 minutes, and now the virtual floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Wow, I've not had such dramatic entrance before, so it'd be nice to be there. Yeah. Thank you for the honor of the invitation, and I'm getting one of the early, if not the very first, such international conference of Islamic social sciences and humanities. And I'm also glad I'm following Professor Zulaifa, because I think she's really laid a good groundwork for what I'm thinking about. I also thank the organizers for giving me this title. I actually moved away from the title, but after thinking about it and coming up with my outline, I eventually came back to this title. So it tells you that the organizers have been thinking about this and it's really relevant. Let me begin by talking about why there's a need for your conference and for everyone there to be doing research, especially in the social science. And the reason is that there is a crisis in the social science. And I'll talk a bit about crisis in a bit. And everyone here has a role to play to help resolve the crisis. The crisis is what we call a replication crisis, meaning that can you repeat the findings of your previous studies? And what they found is that it's actually very, very low replication success, meaning that a lot of research are not able to be reproduced. You can see this on Wikipedia. I've deliberately produced this from Wikipedia. This article here on the right is by a Stanford professor who has highlighted this problem. Let me just go to the next one. Yeah. So this is to tell you how serious it is. 70% of the scientists reported that they could not produce experiments, right? This is 70% sort of overall. 87% of chemists. You're thinking that chemistry is chemicals, right? Social science they may be different, but surely chemistry you can. Biology, 77% cannot be reproduced. Surely biology is the physical body, they are the same, right? Physics and engineering. Again, surely physics is the same everywhere. Gravity is gravity everywhere. Engineering, similarly, right? Medical researchers is one of the worst, actually along with social science. Medical research, because numbers are very small. So I've seen people talking as few as 5 patients being tested, and then they will say 20%, which means 1 patient basically. So you can see that in the area of research in science in general, not even talking about social science, you can see a high failure rate to replicate. So for us in social science, I want to talk about social science. One of the major reasons is that the data are collected from weird countries. And this term, it's been popularized, right? Western educated, industrialized, rich democracies. And I think many of you will know that from the social science that a lot of studies are done using second-year students in universities in the Midwest. There's a cheaper way of collecting data. And so my question to you is, do you think that the study, by studying a second-year psychology student in a large university in the Midwest of USA, right, that they can apply the same results, forget about even other human beings, right? But even the second-year psychology student in Indonesia, I think you hesitate, right? But here we are. A lot of the theories are based on such data. So this is a problem for the social science, because the result is that you're not able to replicate. You're not able to show that these studies actually work out. I want to talk a bit about now the issue of theory, and I'm changing gears. I apologize, and I would say also that Professor Zulaifa's slides are much more beautiful than mine. I really admire her for choosing very beautiful pictures, right? So mine just plain text. And here I want to talk about the issue of why theory as opposed to research. So in fact, I talked about research, and in the event I came back to theory. And I note that we've been talking about theories as opposed to research. The reason is that theories are what the currency most important in the universities. So if you want to get published in the top academic journals, you must do research that touch on theory, concepts, not just findings about, say, the situation in Indonesia. Now the question is, what is a theory? Okay, so a theory is something, is an observation, I put here, observation about a phenomenon that can so-called predict or control the outcome. So in our communication, quite famous theory is that of agenda setting. And in agenda setting, what they're saying is that the press does not tell you what to think or how to think, but tells you what to think about. So it could be, let's say, the environment, right? This is important, and so the press publishes more articles about environment, and so then you begin to think more about environment. It doesn't mean that, for example, that you have to be pro or anti climate change, but that just brings it up, just framing and bringing it up. So that's the theory. So in other words, what the theory would say would be that if the media mentions more of this phenomenon, then people will think more about this phenomenon, right? And I also want to mention that this is this other point here, that what factors determine, right? So in the case of a lot of papers that I see, because I'm editor of a journal, a lot of research would be empirical. So they talk about the situation in the country or in the region, but not conceptual. And the Asian Journal of Communication, for example, will not accept such papers. We just don't publish such papers. You can publish elsewhere in more empirical papers, but not in the Asian Journal of Communication. And so you need to be more conceptual. And I noticed that actually that Professor Zulaifa's discussion was really at a conceptual level. It wasn't about something more about something empirical. And I think we need to change our gears here. And an example I gave here would be, for example, it is true, for example, that the content on the website can radicalize people. So, for example, in my university, there's a group looking at radical Islamic websites. They put 2 research assistants there. The 2 research assistants became more sympathetic to the radical Islamic cause. So in fact, the head of the department came to see me, can we do research? But unfortunately he left, so we didn't carry on. Now the question here is, okay, you observe this phenomenon. What are the factors that make it happen if they become more radicalized or sympathetic? Right, so this is where the theory comes in. So here I say, for example, what factors determine if a Muslim is more likely to spread fake news? And I put Muslim here, okay, deliberately, because you have 2 theories, right? One will say, oh, a religious person should be more careful, right? Or a religious person is more gullible, more likely to believe things. Which is it? So again, this is where the theory comes in to address this phenomenon. In communication and actually I would say social science in general, but because I know communication better, I can definitely speak with more confidence about communication. There are 2 broad camps, right? The quantitative, and I put the green, data-driven, Western, and then the red, Asian, tends to be more qualitative, tends to be essays, scholarly essays. Scholarly essays, by the way, I noticed, for example, Professor Madri's concepts, they are more in this line. There is no data, for example. It's just thinking aloud. These are actually very important because this thinking aloud helps you derive theories. By thinking about this, you can derive theories and then test them using a quantitative approach. So actually the 2 camps go together. They are not separate, but they come together and they help in this larger field of research. A lot of research, however, in Asia is in this area. I see a lot qualitative essays and no data, because in the journals that we have are mostly from the West. They are looking for data. How do you know this is true? So, for example, I note that there was talk about the soul. The soul, as far as I know, cannot be measured. So how do we do that? How do we bring these concepts in? And again, that's where having a conference like this is very helpful to think these things through. How do you apply such concepts from a religious perspective to apply to this situation whereby you have concepts that would then be publishable in a journal after going through peer reviews, right? So there's a whole area that can be worked on. So some perspectives on Islamic view. I came upon this issue when I was at UNISPA at the invitation of Professor Saptiawan, in fact 2019, just before the pandemic, and I was hoping to go back, but now really sad that we can't go back. And I also did a paper looking at Asia Pacific views about communication ethics. So I had to do some research into the Buddhist and the Islamic approach. I would say that there is no systematic analysis of Islamic, Buddhist, or even Christian values in ethics. And I know that a lot of Christians, a lot of Buddhists, a lot of Muslims are concerned about ethics. And I think it's a very clear way of bringing values from religion into ethics. And I think there was some allusion to this in the presentation earlier about having communication ethics. This is clearly an area that the Islamic community here can have a big part to play. This whole area of communication, of ethics in general, is quite well laid out. You have Aristotle, the Greeks, you have John Rawls, a British, then became I think American or British. Then you have others looking, Immanuel Kant, German, right? So you have the Europeans in this space. There is no Asian view of this. How do we bring our ethics into communication so that it is much more aligned with not just our beliefs, because in ethics, the end of ethics is that we lead a happy life. I noticed in the research by UII that one of the first, in fact, boxes was about the good life. And if you look at Aristotle, that's what he tries to do. Ethics should lead to the good life. So we are studying this for the betterment of society, but also for our own good life. My second bullet here is that I noticed that a lot of Islamic communication, the understanding is that it is for evangelism, how to spread Islam, right? How to do communication better. But the research in communication has moved on. It's really moved on. Communication began in the West when it was used to spread a message about propaganda. In other words, it was really propaganda research. So a lot of early research, in fact, was funded by the CIA. So there's some controversy there. But the idea is that you spread not just you spread your beliefs, right? But now it's moved on. And I was talking to Pap Satawan, and one of the points he talked about was about journalism, right? How can we use journalism to check corruption, or in this case, recently, stopping fake news? How do we do that, right? How can we bring communication out? The field of communication now is very broad. For example, in marketing, right? And it's now digital. We now worry about social media, and we are seeing the harm from social media. The latest news, of course, is that Facebook's whistleblower, Frances Haugen, has talked about how Facebook knows that using social media can be harmful, but because they make so much money, I just calculated, right? Facebook makes in profit, because they made 9 billion last quarter. 9 billion last quarter. And most of them no idea how much is 9 billion, right? 9 billion is $4 million profit an hour, even when he's sleeping. That's how much. I mean, that's how much money he makes. Why would he want to stop, right? So it's incumbent on us to see what we can do to understand this area better and try to address this. My final point here: I really appreciate having this conference, and I wish I could be there. Some solutions, right? Research is difficult, I will tell you that. So I salute you all for doing research. It's very challenging. A conference is a way to bring together people to meet and interact. So a face-to-face actually is really necessary for a conference. The ICA has had the virtual conferences now for 2 years. And I just recently booked my flight to, ICA will be held in Paris next year. I'm hoping to go there. The reason that it's a good conference is not just about presenting your papers. It's about meeting people, getting ideas. A good conference will also have editors there who then can do possible collaborations, right? Book projects, collaboration. I hope this will happen in your in ICONISH over time. It does take a bit of time to get going, but there'll be more opportunities to have joint projects as a result of the conference. I myself have a book that came out of a meeting at a conference at ICA, right? We talked and then we came up with an edited volume. So, and then of course there are other book chapters that I've done as a result of going to conference. I hope this is a possibility here at this conference. So I would say I encourage you all to interact. Secondly, for those of you who are deans and in a position to approve conference support, do approve conference support for something like ICONISH. It's national, yes. There's international flavor, but in national sense it's held in Indonesia. But it's an opportunity for paper to be presented, to get feedback, and to set a research culture going, right? So I would highly recommend support for this. I would even recommend support for students. In my school, we've had students win top paper awards, and there should be some awards as well. I hope we get awards for this as well. It's a form of encouragement. It's a bit of competition. These are smart people who come at this level. They're quite smart, right? So a bit of competition is good. My final point here about organizing regular seminars, talk about research. In my school, we found that such seminars are really helpful. It should be organic. I noticed Professor Zulaifa's, the group. That's very impressive area there, because it's in the psychology, not just looking at sort of your abnormal case. If you look at psychology, a lot of the research is about abnormal people. Something's wrong with them, depressed or whatever. But they've also got sort of good things, your good life, a career and so forth. So it's a good balance. By having regular talks in your own school faculty on research, you create a culture for research, and that is quite essential for getting the research culture going. So I'm going to end here and then hand the floor back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Professor Ang Peng Hua, for your remarks. A very wonderful presentation indeed. I would like to take some important points from your presentation. The first one that you have mentioned about the crises that are happening in the field of social science research, particularly in the issue of replication crisis, in which we cannot really replicate it and also applied cases outside of the context of Western educated, industrialized, rich and democracies, and this is also becoming a very serious problem in most developing countries, particularly in Indonesia. We cannot really find the ways to replicate the cases that has been experimented in Western countries, but we are always finding the challenges to implement such cases in Indonesia. And also you've mentioned about the two camps, particularly in the issue of communication studies, that there are two main camps. The first one is Western camps. They are more quantitative and data-driven, and I think this also can be seen in many other fields as well. And in Asian journals, we mostly looking into qualitative research, and also, but no data were provided in those research. What struck me the most, Professor, is when you mentioned that Islamic communication sciences should move out from the evangelism department, and I think I agree to your opinion because essentially this requires many Muslim scholars to actually redefine the definition of da'wah, or the Islamic call, yeah. Because essentially the aim of da'wah, or the Islamic call, or Islamic communication sciences, is not to just propagate the religion, but instead to remind everyone of their critical duties to build common good. And it's in Arabic language, we say it as ta'muruna bil ma'ruf, and also to avoid the evil and destruction of societies in various sectors. In Arabic, we say it as tanhauna anil munkar. And so I think that I agree with you that we should move on from just teaching people about how we can be rhetorical, but instead to critically play our duties to construct a better society in our respective countries. And I'm also interested with your remarks on fake news, because a lot of social media companies are getting revenues from this. And actually, Islamic perspective has provided many kinds of solution, especially in the Quran, which asks the Muslim to examine carefully every possible informations that is coming to the community so that Muslims might not be trapped in ignorance. And sadly, we are facing an irony in this information era. And this has been clearly addressed in the Surah Al-Hujurat, verse 6. Yeah. Fatabayanu an tusibu qauman bijahalah. I mean, the importance of reconfirming news, and Professor Ang Peng Hua is asking us to reflect upon our duties, critical duties as Muslim, in ensuring that Muslim has better preparedness and readiness in facing this ICT era. Thank you very much, Professor Ang Peng Hua, for your interesting elaborations on Asian perspective in communication theory. And now we are going to our third speaker, Dr. Nur Arifah Drajati. Dr. Nur Arifah, how are you? Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
How are you doing? Yes. How are you doing in Solo? Are you in Solo right now, Dr.?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
I hope that you are fine in Solo, Dr. Nur Arifah.
Yes, I'm very fine and doing well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I'm going to introduce Dr. Nur Arifah Drajati. Dr. Nur Arifah Drajati is a lecturer in the Faculty of Teacher Training and Education at Universitas 11 Maret Surakarta, Indonesia. She is the founder and currently the head of Indonesian Committee for Educational Action Researches, a committee of practice whose members are highly committed to research on the improvement of Indonesian education. She is also an expert in educational technology, particularly in the issue of TPACK, technological pedagogical content knowledge, and she has extensively published research work on these topics. Ladies and gentlemen, beloved participants, now please welcome Dr. Nur Arifah Drajati to talk about informal digital learning, the past, today, and the future for Islamic education. Dr. Nur Arifah Drajati, I would like to remind you that you have 20 minutes, and now the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning for all the participants for this conference. So this is a good meeting for all of the academicians to discuss about these issues and how we try to have such kind of solutions for having this kind of topics. So today, let me share my, can I share the PowerPoint? Yeah. So the topic that I would like to discuss with all the participants, this is the informal digital learning, the past, today, and the future for Islamic educations. So this is the topics for having discussions. I will talk about the past and today's educations, and maybe it will give impact to the futures, and then what happens in the today's related to the educational issues. And then I will, this is not new, but this is awareness and also preparing for all of us as educators to have the informal digital learning for future educations. And what are the impacts of informal digital learning for Islamic generations and the implications, that's policy and practice. So what happens in the past, I think that maybe this is only just remind us talking about Harun al-Rashid and also the Khalifa and also maybe the Muslims we learn from the past. In the past, there is no televisions or there is no computers. They focus on the technology that they come from. They learn from the book and also from the environment that give us a lot of knowledge. Yeah, then there are many researchers in the Muslims era, Bani Abbasiyah, and also maybe from Khalifa, many Khalifa that we can learn from them, from the stories. And also until now, we should be learn from the past. Yeah. And in the Western countries, this is what happens related to the learning and teaching. When we learn about the kings and also the kings are from the rich families, yeah, they learn from home. Yeah, the parents can teach their their children, and also sometimes they ask the tutors to come to the homes for learning. And this is today, yeah. And moreover, in the pandemic, the educations gives another point of view. Maybe before having pandemic, we as the parents and also practitioners and also teacher educators would like to say that the education is from school. Yeah, from school. Most of the time of the children are at school. But nowadays, and in these 2 years, the educations back again most of the time are in home. And parents remember that the learning, it is not only from schools, but the parents gives another rules for their children learning. We can see here, this is maybe, this is the parents. Yeah, this is Muslims usually after Maghrib or after Subuh prayer, then we read the Al-Quran. Yeah, so the educations here means that we remember that this is the things that this is our habits, and hopefully that though this is not pandemic or pandemic, this is still exists. So this is what happens now. Yeah. So though the children or the students learn from the teachers, the parents accompany their children. Yeah, maybe not before pandemic. Yeah, usually the parents just have the report from the teachers, and the parents maybe accompany their children, but not so seriously. Not so serious. And sometimes if both of the parents going to work, then most of the parents ask some tutors to come to their house. And because of the pandemic, willy-nilly, that the parents have to learn how to teach their students, their children, I mean. So this is a kind of a change that we, having the pandemic, we learn a lot, maybe from the technology tools, and maybe this is the environment. And today we learn that conference can be blended or hybrid, and also we can, I'm from Solo, and the ICONISH conference from Yogyakarta, and maybe for other speakers from other countries, and other participants is from other countries too. So this is such kind of a new atmosphere for all of us. Yeah, there's such kind of innovations, and then the availability, new methodology, and also new standards that related to the what happens in these 2 years during the pandemic. So willy-nilly, we have to adapt it with the technology. Yeah, so we need to be aware of this kind of change. So this is some change that related to what happens to these 2 years. New learning journey. So most of the learners now, it is not only just learning. They want to also playing. And maybe for us, this is for us as the academicians, we do research, we teach our students, and also at the same time, we learn from other people. And maybe also we learn from our students also. Yeah. Then for the students, it is not enough if they only just learning. They need to play. They need to play. Then this will give impact for the teacher educators and also for academicians to have a new habit. Yeah. For example, me myself, maybe in the 2 hours I just teach my students, but nowadays there's a kind of different atmosphere, different culture, and sometimes we need to more than one gadget. I have my laptop and I have to face my mobile phones to have another meeting. Yeah, and sometimes the meetings cannot be denied and we can be ignored because maybe this is from the boss. Yeah, so we cannot say I'm sorry, I have to teach. Yeah, maybe not now, but maybe in the future we can say that I'm sorry that I have to teach. I'm sorry that I have to do anything with my family, for example. So for Indonesians, this is for me myself. Yeah, this is just example. I cannot say that I have to do teaching today for my students, but at the same time I have to teach. I have a meeting. I have to learn new things. This is the same time. So this is a new learning journey and also the new teaching journey. Yeah. So we sometimes we get a new culture for having this situation. Then this is what we face today. So at the same time, the learners, it is not only just enough for learning, but also they need to play. Yeah, that's why as the educators, we need to think about this. Yeah, at least think about this. What the possible things that we can offer for our students regarding to the educations. Yeah, this is not only just learning about the knowledge, but also they need to have a new learning experience, the new learning experience. So to create such kind of curiosity from the learners, we need to create this kind of situations. Yeah. At the same time, the students learn new knowledge, but also they can play and by having such kind of creating something new, and then they got new learning experience. And this kind of new learning experience will give impact on the students' attitudes and also the students' skills. Yeah. This is gamifications. Yeah, the game-based learning, or we can use such kind of concept of gamifications. As the academicians, we need to learn about this. We can see from the facts that the students or our children, if they play games, sometimes they forget another activities. Yeah, and sometimes they forget to eat they forget to do what they have to do. Yeah. Why? Because they don't want to lose the change, then the challenge, how to becoming a winner of the game. Yeah. So this is what happens in the phenomena that we face nowadays. Yeah, talking about the learning environment. So I said previously that maybe as the academicians, we have a new atmosphere. Yeah, at the same time, we learn, we teach, we have meeting for other people. Yeah, so this is the things that we face nowadays. Then this will give impact also for the students. This is related to the learning principles. And as the educators, we need to have what is the future directions for this is for relating learning principles. This is more individual. Yeah, this is more individual, and then having personalized online learning and small groups and having such kind of collaborative. Yeah. So this is the things that we need to learn from these situations. Yeah. And this is something that we cannot be ignored, that learning is open. The students cannot just learn from school. The children cannot learn from home, but they can learn from everywhere, from a lot of resources. And by having such kind of learning, they meet a lot of people. Yeah, this is their own community. Sometimes the children or the students didn't have any friends from school, or maybe from the environment in outside of his home, but he or she has a big community that related to online community. Yeah, my students nowadays, it is not only just have friends from Indonesia, but she has also friends from America, from Singapore, from Australia, and etc. Yeah, so this is the things that we need to be aware, that our students can learn from many people.
Prof.
Yeah.
Nur Arifah, you are having 5 minutes left, so please move to the conclusion part.
Okay, thank you. Oh, time is so fast. Yeah, then learning is personal, learning is augmented, then multi-represented with any modes. Yeah, and learning is everywhere, anytime, and anybody. So this is the things that we can say, and maybe we know about this. Yeah, and this is a very influence for young learners. And also maybe not only young learners, but also for the adult learners, they learn a lot from this kind of media. So this one, informal digital learning environment. So there are two kinds of informal digital learning environment. First, intracurricular and extramural. So the intracurricular is we in school, we try to facilitate our students with the activities regarding to the ICT, and also we can give such kind of tasks for the students that relate to our tasks, but the students can do the task outside of the classroom. The second one is extramural English, or extramural digital learning environment. Extramural here is, this is self-motivations for the learners to find their resources. For example, the students learn from YouTube channels. The students learn from a podcast. for example, like that. So there are two kinds of informal digital learning environment. Then what were the impacts of the informal digital learning environment for education and Islamic generations? This is a kind of issues. Yeah, first is this is a good things, but the other things is the not so good things. Yeah, if we didn't play roles as the educators in this kind of environment. And this give impact for the government, the parents, the learners, the educators also. And what can we do as the academicians? This give we have a kind of a habit discontinuity. Yeah, so we need to have a new habit in teaching and also in learning. This is the awareness for the teachers to do the new things that create a new environment, good environment for the students. So this is what we can do as the teachers. Yeah, though this is still new, but we can create such kind of situations both in the classroom and also outside of the classrooms. Yeah. Then the implications for the learners and parents, the social awareness of both of the learners and parents, whether this content is good or not, which is beneficial for us or not, and what is the impact for our lives. And the second one, this is related to the motivations of self-regulated learning. And this is not only just for the students, but also the parents. Yeah. The third one is learning will be back from home. We'll back again to home, so the parents will give or play important roles in children educations. So for the researchers, this is not new topic, but there are a lot of things can be. This is researchable, and we can give impact for having solutions for the government, for parents and teachers related to education. So as the conclusion, we meet the new environment, and informal digital learning environment comes sooner, and we should be aware with this atmosphere. And all of the aspects, both policymakers, education practitioners, and parents play important roles in facing new paradigm of education. So I take the message from Dr. Abdullah Nasih Uwan. Good educations for children are starting from the collaborations from parents, schools, and mosques. Thank you very much for listening, and we open for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nur Arifah Drajati. I would like to conclude several points from your presentation. The first one is that this pandemic has forced us to think anew about learning experience, and also we should, as educators and learners, we should try to redefine what does it mean by learning process. And therefore you have also mentioned the importance of doing transformation in that learning process by opening new ways in ensuring that students could experience new learning journey, and also to give opportunities to open education system to be implemented not only in areas that are covered with widespread internet access, but also to areas outside of those privileged regions. And you also, Dr. Nur Arifah also mentioned about the learning experience, which of course includes not only learning, not only memorizing materials, but also to play. Yeah, I think play is one of the most important part in order to ensure the engagement of students, especially in online settings. And I think most of the lecturers are realizing the importance of engaging students in online games in order to making sure that they could have better understanding about the materials, and also doing something, working on projects, and also doing research over many issues is also important. And you also mentioned the importance of building new learning principle that focuses on the open education, and also a comprehensive engagement, not only from the educators but also from communities like mosque, and also from parents, especially parents who are playing an important role in accompanying students during the learning process in their own homes. Thank you very much, Dr. Nur Arifah. And now we are moving to question and answer session. The first question we have here is from Dr. Subhan Afifi, who is also lecturer of the Department of Communication at Islamic University of Indonesia. So Dr. Subhan is asking question to Professor Ang. Professor Ang, Dr. Subhan is asking you a question on how, would you like to elaborate the steps for conducting research if we want to develop communication theory in Islamic perspective? Is it possible for us to publish a paper that focuses on the theorization of Islamic communication theory at the Asian Communication Journal that you are leading now? And what are the criteria for accepting paper with Islamic communication topic in that journal? Thank you very much, Professor Ang. Professor Ang, you might want to ask directly now.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the question. So right now, in fact, I'm hoping to run what we call a special issue on Islamic communication research. In fact, I'm proposing some people to look in this area. And the idea is not just bring one paper, but to bring a few papers touching on the issue of Islamic communication research. And this conference will be a perfect place for hopefully some papers to come from this conference. You're asking about theorizing Islamic communication. It would have to be about theory. It's not enough to just talk about, like I mentioned, an empirical situation. It'll be some theory. So one paper that I'm looking at is using Islamic measures, in fact, quite a technical paper, looking at Islamic theories. I'm holding back the paper for review, for the special issue to come in, and the authors have agreed to hold back. So you can see that there are possibilities here looking into this space. The issue is what is different or new. So this is partly the reason why we have this issue of replication, because people don't replicate, they always see something new. So the question now is what else is new? And I mentioned also actually that there's a problem of replication, that things cannot be duplicated, or the findings cannot be duplicated, they cannot find. So similarly, are there studies that you all can do that show that somehow different in either Indonesia or is it in most because of Islam? Let me give you one example. A journal setting, the idea that the press presents issues, and then the coffee shop talks follow the issue. In Singapore, in 1990, my colleague found the opposite. They found that the coffee shop talk and the newspapers issues were different. And the reason is because of censorship of the media in Singapore. So the media are presenting a censored version, but the coffee shop talk was different. People were talking about different issues, but the media, because they were censored, did not present the issues. So it means that a journal setting does not always work, especially in a censored media environment. And this will be something new that contributes to theory, part of theory building, right? So similarly, are there issues in Indonesia that you can say it's different because of the context of Indonesia? This will be refining the theory. I know it's kind of vague, but the point that there's so much out there that it's really hard to say, what can go in. The main one is that there be theory, and also ideally some data collection. You can theorize without data, but it's a stronger case if you have data to back you up. Hope that clarifies. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Ang Peng Hua. I think that we are moving now to another question. I think that Dr. Subhan has already found Professor Ang Peng Hua's answer to be insightful, and so we are moving to our next question. The next question is coming from Edwi Arif Sosiawan, and this question is asked to two speakers, Dr. Nur Arif Andrajati and also Professor Ang Peng Hua. The question is it necessary to develop a new theory related to pedagogic communication, or is it sufficient to modify the pedagogical approach from the point of view of teaching and learning communication? I'm giving the floor to Bu Nur Arifah first, and after that, I would like to give the floor to Professor Ang Peng Hua.
Okay, thank you for the questions, Bapak Edwi Arif Sosiawan. Yeah, this is very crucial because it should be there's a kind of a new, maybe not new, but we renew. Yeah, we renew the pedagogy. Maybe this is related in the Indonesian culture, and we are still new in facing this kind of situations. Then we need to. As the educators, I think that we need to trying and have such kind of creative actions, how to, for example, engage our students, and also how our students is having new learning experience. Yeah, maybe this is something that we have to think as the educators. Yeah, what the things that the students wants to learn and what the students' new learning experience. So this is the two questions is very crucial as the educators to think and imagine what the things that they want and what the things that we can create related to learning process. Because I think that we can see that the learning process for myself, for example, this is, for example, 40 years old people, and also 20 years now, 20 students now, it is a very different. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that this is a good time for us, yeah, to start for having research regarding to the pedagogy. And based on my research regarding to the technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge, the less or the lack of the teachers actually on the pedagogy, yeah, not the technology, but most of them are still having problems in pedagogy. Yeah, the reasons maybe this is the teacher's background, and also what happens that's in a dynamic situation. Yeah, so that's my comments.
Right, thank you very much, Dr. Arifah. I know we are moving to Professor Ang Peng Hua. Would you care to elaborate your opinion on the question, Professor?
Sure, I'll keep it brief because I'm not a domain expert here on pedagogy. I would say that the research methods are already out there. I don't see a lot of new research methods in this space. So you have the research methods out there. So then it's the question of what question you are asking, right, to fit. So I imagine, for example, okay, so even taking my own case, right, because I've seen very smart students, right, making very stupid decisions. So when my daughter was very young, I decided I will not teach her things like mathematics, science. So in fact, I have very little contact with her about teaching her mathematics and science. What I tried to teach her was make good decisions, how to think to make good decisions. So I've been thinking that from the point of view of an Islamic community, right, you want your children to have spiritual values. I'm not sure there's a lot of research out there about spiritual values. A lot of research about teaching content, right, because they can pass the exam. But that's not the most important thing in life. The most important thing about life is your life, right? Making good decisions, being your spiritual values, right? Being ethical, right? So I don't know if there's a lot of research out there, but if you can, I mean, what makes what kind of teaching methods or what content or what models can we use so that our children grow up with good values? They make wise decisions. They do not get fooled by radicals. They do not get fooled by fake news. They make good decisions. So it's a bit like the happiness school of psychology, as opposed to the abnormal, right? Anything depression and all that. They study in psychology. I think that's something worth looking at, especially given kind of the common values here in this community.
Thank you very much, Professor Ang Peng Hua, for your kind response. And I would like to remind all of the audiences that you can always raise your hand in the Zoom if you want to address your question directly to the speakers, and I will give you the time to floor your questions. And I am going to read next question from Kofifah Novitasari, and the same question is also asked by Maika R. Firlas, and this question is addressed to Dr. Arifa. So Dr. Arifa, the question is regarding the use of social media or games for learning. If there is inappropriate content that pops up on the screen when our students are learning or using games or social media, what should we do as teachers? Dr. Arifa, please answer the question.
Okay, thank you for the questions from Ibu Hopipa. Yeah, I think that first of all, we need to learn about the concept of gamifications. Gamifications is a different with game. Yeah, so gamifications is a game related to learning. So it could be from making such kind of a quiz and go over and over, maybe, and the more difficult one, maybe this is a kind of using or creating something with coding programs. Yeah, so this is a variety of the game learning, and this is the things that can be one of the interesting one, yeah, because this is the things that the children like to do, yeah. So as the teachers here, I think that we need to create such kind of atmosphere in the classrooms, and we can facilitate our students by having this kind of learning, yeah, learning by creating games, yeah, creating games. Yeah, so the students will think hard for that, and also maybe relate to their own experience in playing game, what the games that would like they create, yeah, for other people. Yeah, so regarding to the second question, for example, the social media. So the social media here, it is for having such kind of discussions, and also for us maybe having such kind of observations, and also sharing experience. Yeah, of course, this is regarding to the learning experience. Yeah, for example, when the students have already have a game, for example, that's a simple game, then they can share in the social media to know about the feedback, to know about the review, and having discussions with new community. So it gives or it facilitates the students to try to communicate with other people from many perspectives. Yeah, so the students here trying to learn to communicate with other people. So this is my comment, Bapak.
All right, thank you very much, Bu Arifa, for your kind answer. And now we are moving to the next question by Nurul Aulia Dewi, addressed to Dr. Emi Zulaifa. Bu Emi, there's a question. If we have Islamic psychology, can there be also Christian psychology or psychology of other religions? This is a very interesting question for you to be answered.
Very interesting question. Thank you, Ibu atau Kak Nurul ya, for the question. Of course, there is this large room for religious-based psychology. In fact, journals are available. Yeah, good journals are there for us to do research based on a religion. And in fact, Islamic psychology was brought up rather late, actually. So pastoral psychology, Buddhist psychology came early, Jewish psychology came earlier than that, and especially during this time where in the world we see much more conflict, I think some kind of interfaith kind of approach to problem of humanities is needed. So there is large room for us to move from a religious beliefs to to tackle challenges that human face in today's world, I think. So welcome, and to develop a new knowledge based on our religion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bu Emi, for that question. So Islam psychology is coming a bit late, but it's never late. It's better late than never. All right, so let's move on to the next question. And we have question from Faisal Saleh to Dr. Arifah. I think there are a lot of questions being addressed to Dr. Arifah today. And the question is, we know that there are about 3 educational centers initiated by Ki Hajar Dewantara. The questions are, first, how to relate the 3 educational centers I think the maxims that Tut Wuri Handayani in the context of educational technology in Madyo Mangunkarso Tut Wuri Handayani, how to contextualize that in the educational technology, and how to prevent the negative impact of technology starting from the family and society using the exact maxims that are being proposed by Ki Hajar Dewantara. Bu Arifah, please.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Bapak, Ibu. I just remember that this kind of pedagogy, Ki Hajar Dewantara, will bring into the new era for Indonesians. Because why? I think starting maybe next year, hopefully next year, this kind of pedagogy will be spread out all around Indonesia. This is regarding to the what we call PPG, teacher professional development, and this is for the school teachers that we try to digging up this kind of pedagogy method. There are 3 points here. Ingarso sungtulodo. This is a kind of a good role. A good role. This is not only, I think this is not only for the teachers, but also parents here pay attention to this method. So the Ingarso sungtulodo, it is very straight up. It is not only for the educations, but also this is for parents in building the communication with their children. So becoming a good role for their children. So here, the good example or good roles, it is not only just teachers' task, but first is of course from home. And the second one, this is regarding to Madyo Mangunkarso. So this is kind of a good motivations. At home and also at school, we have to give roles for children, for the students. It is not only from the schools, but also from home. As the parents, we need to have great motivations how to lead our students becoming good people. I think this is not only just good in Islamic. This is a very good point. How to be a good people. How to be a good people in many aspects. Maybe it's only just 2 words, but it is not easy to do all or to be a good people. And the third one is Tut Wuri Handayani. Tut Wuri Handayani is we motivate. We motivate and give support for all of the students, for the teachers to do better and grow. So I think this kind of pedagogy can be implement in Indonesia to face the new atmosphere of informal digital learning environment. So regarding to the educations and the teachers, we have to give a good example for our students. How? By teaching differently from our previous teachers. Yeah, we have to change our mindset that the knowledge is not from the teachers, but the students can have the knowledge from many resources. Yeah, that's why we need to bring the forces that we have to teach our students to be critical, and then the second one we need to give examples how to communicate better, how to collaborate in a good one, and the last one we have to be creative. Yeah, so be creative. It is not only for the students but also for the educators. Yeah. That's my comments, my answers.
Right. Thank you very much, Bu Arifah. The next question is also addressed to you, Bu. I think there are a lot of people who are very curious about your opinion on learning technology, Bu Arifah, and I think this shows your expertise on this particular issue. Bu Arifah, this question is coming from Zahratul Aziza. So Zahratul Aziza is asking about the issue of game development. If I want to develop a new game for learning, what are the aspects that we need to consider?
Yeah, of course. I think this is similar with the previous one. We need to learn about gamifications. So how the game is beneficial for educations, and in the future, maybe this is maybe now the students is learning about game, but in the future they create games. They create games that maybe this is beneficial for educations. Why? Based on my research, that games, it is not only serious game. I mean serious games, such kind of that the kids would like to play. This is serious game, and it gives impact on the vocabularies. Yeah. Usually, for the games player, they would like to keep silent. This is based on my observation. But when we as the teacher ask questions for them in English, they can speak a lot. They can have a new knowledge that maybe as the educators, we didn't have this kind of things. Yeah, this is a very surprise for me as the educators that playing games in a serious game, it will give impact for the students. But maybe as the teachers and also the parents, we didn't pay attention of this. Yeah, maybe we need to have more research regarding to the games. And I think that this is not only for the teacher training and education faculties, or maybe in UAE, this is humanity faculty. But also, this is also regarding to the techniques faculty, psychology faculty, and maybe from other faculties too. So this is collaborative teams to think about this. That's depend on the game that you would like to create. Yeah, but for educators, of course, we need to how this game will be beneficial for other people. Yeah, for society. For example, my students create quiz. Yeah, and quiz is one of the game that we as the educators can facilitate this. And they create the game or the quiz through Instagram. And what is the impact of this? The impact is there are many people ask my students to work more and more. Yeah. And in the end, my students have research on this. And then how to create benefits quiz, benefits quiz or benefit game for other people. Yeah. So this is the things. Maybe this is the small things, and I think that this is the simple example. The simple example that we can try to facilitate the learners' learning. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arifah. Now, I think you will have some time to rest for a while. And now we are giving the opportunity for Professor Ang Peng Hua to ask his question to Dr. Emi Zulaifa directly. Please, Professor.
Okay, sure, yeah. So I'm very interested to hear Professor Zulaifa's presentation, and I'm glad it began to set the tone here. So I'm wondering to what extent the work that's been done at UII, and especially with a view of an Islamic perspective on psychology. I'm not so sure you can call it Islamic psychology because you might get a misunderstanding there, but they are bringing the Islamic values and Islamic perspectives. How widely accepted is this even in among the Islamic community? I just want to understand that. Yeah.
So the question is for me.
Yes.
A question from a professor is like an exam. Thank you, Professor Ang. The acceptance, okay. If the question is about how many % of Muslim psychologists accept Islamic psychology, or how many would use that in their practices, we have not done yet a survey on that. But if we see the numbers of associations around the world, it keeps increasing, Professor. So, and the association is, interestingly, very much driven from their unique context in the society. For example, the situation in the United States, for example, it drove Stanford University to create a Muslim mental health center. Because Muslims being minority in the United States, they are faced with Islamophobia, and you know the event in September 11 has really put them into the corner, and you know in some ways such a reality, the narration that are given to the Muslim communities in the United States might impact the way they see themselves psychologically. And so there is this center, Muslim Mental Health Center at Stanford University. In the UK, there is this movement for Islamic psychology, which now it becomes the International Association of Islamic Psychology, centered in Cambridge Muslim College. The location is not Cambridge University, but Cambridge Muslim College. And at Bradford, Prof. Skinner, being maybe the most senior professor of Islamic psychology in the UK, he developed Ihsan Center for psychology, for mental health. And it's very interesting that people who come to the center are not only Muslim, because maybe they see they see it beneficial to have a consultation with different perspective. And in another time, I think it was in 2016 that we met Prof. Theo Bowman from Groningen, and he was asking us about Islamic psychology, because psychologists in the Netherlands might need the understanding of the psychology of the Muslims whenever they have to come to help them. And in Russia, very interesting, because Vladimir Putin support the presence of this association of Muslim psychological assistants. This is so much driven by the data that a lot of young Muslim in Russia, when conflict in Syria, took place, a lot of them went into this learning about religion and got radicalized, and they also try to explore further the reality of this Muslim youth, Muslim families, and found that maybe some marginalization, also poverty, contributed to the radicalization in there. And so there is this attempt from the government working together hand in hand with the Muslim psychologists in Russia to develop assistance for Muslims. And then it becomes like Association for Islamic Psychology there. And with that, UII has collaboration, alhamdulillah, and it's been fruitful with, Islamic psychology classes over to the whole world and, everywhere. So if we must talk about data on acceptance, I don't think a survey has been done on that, but association, yes, it keeps increasing in the world, and it's driven so much by different contexts, Professor Ang. Very interesting. Thank you very much. I hope it answered, but data is important, Prof, in this matter, to talk more accurately about this. Thank you.
Yes, that was an interesting remarks from you, Bu Emi, and I think that we would like to also hear from Professor Ang about his response to Dr. Emi Zulaifa's answers. Do you have any response to Dr. Emi's answer?
I put up my hand because I wanted to kind of affirm what Professor Zulaifa has said, because this is an example of where coming from Islam, I don't know if you feel like you're a minority, but you can see how well-established universities are setting up study areas in this area here. So you have Stanford and others, then that gives it the legitimacy, right? And also shows that it's not as, and it's interesting that Professor Zulaifa says that even non-Muslims go. I was going to say that this is an issue, is not of Islam per se, but being a minority in a different country, and if perhaps even an element of racism, right? So the study that you do about Islam can then apply elsewhere, and this is part of theory, right? That you study, it's no longer just confined to Islam or a Muslim, but to the larger world community, and that's how you get published, and that's how you show that your work is important. So thank you. Yeah, I would say if this is an exam, it's not an exam, but if it is an exam, Professor Zulaifa gets an A+. Right.
Thank you, Prof. It's an A+.
Right, yeah. Thank you very much, Professor Ang and Dr. Emi Zulaifa, for this interesting discussion. And now we are moving on to next questions. The next question is coming from Anissa Miranti. And this question is asked again to Dr. Emi. So Anissa Miranti is asking this question. It is interesting that Al-Balkhi, one of the classic psychologists in Islamic tradition, proposed psychological treatment which is resembling the cognitive behavior therapy and not writing the idea to get closer to Allah, such as doing salah as tazkiyah and purification of soul, which was proposed by Al-Ghazali. What do you think of it? If we implement the Islamic psychology, does that mean we should always use the ibadah as an approach, or for the psychological intervention, or can we still use another method? As far as I know, that in Turkey there are also Darushifa, which also apply music as a way to therapy for the psychologically ill patients. Yes, please, Dr. Emi.
Okay. We need to read the books thoroughly, Ibu Anissa, like the book of Imam Al-Ghazali. As far as I know, that he did not only recommend the salah ritual, but also the ibadah, but also other things like in order for us to kill, our desire to riya, the tendency for riya. Riya is that
showing off to show off
showing
something.
off to be praised, because it's not good for our heart. Then you can I mean, he suggests some are really funny, actually, funny, yeah, in a way that, you know, you have to train yourself, like acting like ugly, and then somebody give you bad remark, then, you know, if you still feel irritated by that, then you're not yet healed. So some people get really they intend to act differently because of treating themselves, yeah, in their heart, yeah, treating their heart. We need to read thoroughly the book, yeah. But ibadah is really, this is zikrullah, this is necessary for tazkiyah, for developing ourselves. In fact, this is core, yeah. And there is this psychotherapeutic element of doing our ibadah. Yeah, when we do that deeply with our heart, we felt it with our heart, then ibadah has this therapeutical element, meaning in it, I think. And when we spoke about al-Balkhi, the whole book was not only talking about treating our mental, but it's also about our body, because the book is titled Masalih al-Abdan wal-Anfus. And what is translated by Prof. Malik Badri was only about the psychological part. And what has been discussed today is only about the psychological part. And remember that the concept of tazkiyah is like overarching concept, yeah, to really sharpen and let grow ourselves. It doesn't apply only psychologically, but also bodily. I mean, if we keep giving junk food to our body, then we don't do tazkiyah to our body. And that's what al-Balkhi said. And our fasting is part of that, yeah, to respect and to treat well our body. And I think we need to read the book thoroughly, Ibu Anissa, yeah, and to see that our ibadah serve as a very important process in our tazkiyah, yeah. I think that's it, because we need to open book and discuss
yes,
page
exactly.
to page in order to understand the whole thing.
Exactly,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Rami. Thank you very much for your kind response anyway. And now we are moving on to Dr. Arifah, because Dr. Arifah has something to say, and I would like to invite Dr. Arifah to also address her concluding remarks for this session.
Okay, thank you for the moderator. Thank you very much for all the participants, and I really appreciate that this is a great conference. Congratulations for Universitas Islam UII, UII Yogyakarta, for having this great conference. Yeah, as the educators, we should be aware. Yeah, we should be aware what happens nowadays, and the knowledge itself, the learners can have from anywhere. So as the teachers here, we can facilitate and motivate our students to be creative, to be communicative, to be critical thinking, and also we can collaborate with other people. And in this moment, maybe there's a kind of no time for asking for Dr. Emmy Zulaifa, but maybe for in the future, there's a kind of collaborations between education and psychology regarding to the use of the informal digital learning environment with the students. Thank you very much for having these sessions.
Thank you very much. You're welcome, Dr. Arifah, for your kind participation for today. And now we are moving to our last question asked by Fitriana Sharifah to Professor Ang Peng Hua. So the question is here, Professor, how could we help people who have been highly affected by fake news? As we all know, particularly in Indonesia, some people believe in fake news to the highest degree that they are not going to change their view, even though they have been told that the news is fake. So how are we going to face that condition, Professor?
Yeah, actually, this is actually a very serious problem because if you think about even democracy, the assumption is that when people are presented with the facts, and the facts you get arrive at the facts through discussion, through media and so forth, then people will change their views. But if people will not change their views, then there's no point talking about media, no point talking about freedom of expression, because they will not change at all. So this is puzzling. We see, for example, some factors that make people not change, right? Power. If they can get to power, you see that in USA, unfortunately, right? It's supposed to be the beacon of democracy. If they can get to power by violating the norms of democracy, they will do it. The joke, of course, is that they are destroying the norms of democracy in order to save democracy, right? That's their view of democracy. So in the case of the people who are sort of affected by fake news, one of the things that is not happening is that we are not understanding them. Why are they like that? So in fact, I was just writing a note to Vitriana that we're doing a survey about people who are belonging to anti-vaccine groups, what we call vaccine hesitancy. If we're having a hard time getting approval, we may get approval this Saturday, but we've approached a few and they turn us down. And the research ethics requires that you get approval from the group admin. So if you can do something similar in Indonesia, and we have a question, we can collaborate, right? Understand the psychology of right? Of people in this space. Why do they behave this way? Why do they believe facts that are false? Even though these facts that are false can literally kill them, right? Why do they believe that? Then there's some headway to understand this. It's part of theory, part of psychology, part of very good social science research, which is why I applaud what they're doing. It's really, really important for us. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Ang Peng Hua, for your answer and your last answer. And now, because of the limited time that we have today, I would like to thank to all of the speakers that have been participating in this session, Dr. Amy Zulaifah, Professor Ang Peng Hua, and also Dr. Nur Arifah Drajati. Thank you for your time and the fruitful discussion that we have today. And thank you everyone for coming to this seminar session. May Allah always protect us with health and happiness. And everyone who is watching from YouTube, please stay tuned on our YouTube channel at FPSB UII. Thank you everyone for participating in this seminar from the beginning until the end. I am Hazami Fadrobi signing off from Universitas Islam Indonesia Yogyakarta. I'm giving back the floor to Ms. Sekarsari. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Haza and all the speakers, Dr. Amy Zulaifah, Professor Ang Peng Hua, and Dr. Nur Arifah Drajat. It was really great discussion indeed, range from Islamic communication research to Islamic pedagogy and also elaborative Islamic concepts on psychology. It was really great and fruitful discussion indeed. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, our next agenda is a virtual group photo. So, ladies and gentlemen, please turn on your camera. And we are going to capture 2 times since we have so many presenters and also participants joining the conference today. Okay, are you ready? Please give your best smile. All right. Let's count, yeah. 1, 2, 3. All right. Then, second time. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Are we done? All the operators? All right, thank you very much for all the participants and also all the presenters today. All right, we are done at the photo session, and ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our plenary session today. After this, we are going to have panel session, and there will be 2 panel sessions today, and each panel has 3 rooms. So please enter the room according to the list of presenters. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue, I also would like to inform you that the Faculty of Psychology and Sociocultural Sciences also provides you with other opportunities to get your research published through our scientific journals. Our title include Jurnal Psikologika, Jurnal Komunikasi, Asian Journal of Media and Communication, and Jurnal Intervensi Psikologi, which are internationally indexed and nationally accredited. You may find out more at journal.uii.ac.id and submit your research for the upcoming issues. And for all participants who will present their papers today and tomorrow in the panel sessions, the program book of the conference is available to access at iconish.uii.ac.id, which will inform you about your panel and other important details. And please be advised that to be able to access the program book, you will need a password, which is already sent to your email by the conference committee. For non-presenter participants, you are invited to the special plenary session, which will be held today, Thursday, 9 December 2021 at 7 p.m. Western Indonesian time, and also tomorrow for the closing plenary ICONISH 2021 at 1 p.m. GMT +7. So we hope to see you there tomorrow. So thank you so much once again for your kind attention, and hope you have the enjoyable conference, and also hope it will bring future benefits for all of us. I'm Sekar Sari signing out today. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.